This is MeetSean, where we break down real life topics insurance, annuities, real estate, travel planning, and home ownership so you can make smarter moves. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to really cut through all the noise. If you're eyeing a European adventure, whether it's your first big trip or maybe your 10th, the planning part alone can feel like a full-time job.
Oh, absolutely. The sheer amount of information is overwhelming.
It is. So what we've done is we've taken a whole stack of excellent travel advice, blog excerpts, and we're going to deliver the essential blueprint.
The smart way to do it.
Exactly. The smartest strategies, these specialized destination pairings, and maybe most importantly, the crucial timing windows you absolutely have to nail down.
Right. We aren't just giving you a list of countries. We're really defining the logistics and the lead times. That's what separates a stress-free vacation from a frustrating scramble at the last minute.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I think the core finding across all the material is pretty simple. Europe is just vast. It truly offers something for every single personality type.
It really does. History lovers, mountaineers, people just looking for romance or amazing food.
But staring at a map of, 40-plus countries, it's just paralyzing.
It is, and that's why the advice we found gives such a fantastic shortcut right from the very beginning. What the research does so well is it streamlines that first big decision. It basically says, don't look at a map, look at yourself first. The sources broke down all these top destinations into 6 core traveler profiles, which is a massive help for anyone who just needs to get smart fast.
It immediately shrinks your scope from a whole continent down to just, 3 or 4 specific regions.
Exactly.
Let's run through them because this structure really is the foundation of planning smart. What did the advice say for these SELFs profiles?
Okay, so we start with the first-time visitor.
The classic.
The classic. If you've never been, the sources all pretty much point to the big 4, Paris, Rome, London, and Barcelona. This mix gives you those huge, iconic landmarks, combined with deep history and culture that's really easy to access.
That makes a lot of sense culturally, but let's pause on that for a second. If you put London, Paris, and Rome on one single itinerary, that's immediately a very high-cost trip.
It is.
So is the advice suggesting that first-timers just need to have a huge budget? Or are these simply the must-see spots no matter the cost?
That is a great point, and the advice sort of implicitly recognizes that trade-off. These 4 cities are the entry points because they have incredible infrastructure, they're easy to navigate. You're trading, let's say, budget complexity for planning simplicity.
Got it. Cultural certainty.
Exactly, but don't worry, the sources do address travelers with tighter finances in another profile a little later on.
Excellent. Okay, let's move on to the more active types, the adventure seekers.
For them, the recommendations skew pretty heavily toward the dramatic outdoors. We're talking Iceland, the Swiss Alps, and Norway's fjords.
All about the scenery.
All about it. Yeah. These places are geared toward mountaineering, hiking, intense outdoor experiences, glacier walking, kayaking.
I did notice that the materials seem to favor Northern and Central Europe for adventure. Any reason why? Why not say the Balkan region? I mean, it is fantastic hiking and climbing.
That's a good question. It likely comes down to how the sources define adventure. They seem to focus on places with highly developed, easily accessible infrastructure.
Okay, like in Switzerland or Norway.
Precisely. The travel blogs we looked at often define an efficient trip by how easy it is to plan, and those Northern European spots are logistically just simpler than some of the more rugged emerging markets in the Balkans.
Understood. All right, now for less hiking, more sun and sand.
That brings us to the beach lover profile. No surprises here, really. The recommendations are the Greek islands, Italy's Amalfi Coast, and the Algarve region in Portugal.
The heavy hitters.
They are. And they're highlighted specifically for their, just guaranteed stunning coastlines and really established tourism.
And for the food and wine enthusiasts?
Yeah.
The culinary holy trinity?
For them, you need to aim for the gastronomic strongholds. So France's Bordeaux region, Italy's Tuscany, and Spain's Basque Country.
Specifically Bilbao and San Sebastian, I saw.
Yes, exactly. And these places are defined not just by, having good restaurants, but by having this deep embedded food culture that goes back centuries.
Right. Okay, and to round out the list, we have those watching their wallets and those who are hungry for history.
Yep. The budget travelers are pointed towards Prague, Budapest, and Krakow. These cities offer just fantastic experiences, rich history, beautiful architecture, great nightlife, but at a significantly lower cost than, say, London or Paris.
Makes a multi-week trip much more efficient.
Absolutely. And then finally, the history buffs. They can dive deep into Athens, Berlin, and Vienna to really explore Europe's historical roots and political past.
You know, that grouping technique is just so valuable. It turns this massive decision into more of an introspective exercise. You define your style, and boom, you have a short list of 3 countries. So much better than starting with 50 options.
Exactly right. And once you've figured out where you're going, the next part of the advice is all about the how. Money and movement.
And the sources immediately jump on Europe's transportation excellence. This is a huge advantage for multi-country trips.
For sure.
You've got high-speed trains, budget airlines for covering huge distances quickly, and of course, scenic road trips if you want to drive yourself.
And on the topic of rail travel, the research really highlights tools like rail passes. The Eurail Pass gets called out a lot as a great option for flexible multi-country travel. But there's a key distinction the sources warn about, a common first-timer mistake.
Oh, what's the mistake?
The mistake is assuming the pass gives you total flexibility, that you can just walk on any train.
Oh.
The sources are clear. For many high-speed and overnight routes, even with a Eurail Pass, you have to book a mandatory seat reservation separately and well in advance.
And that can cost extra, I assume.
It can. So flexible doesn't always mean spontaneous, especially on those really key routes.
That is a crucial detail to know. Okay, let's talk money. We can't escape the cost. To give us a reality check, the research drilled down on one very popular and famously expensive country, Iceland.
Right, and this specific detail really helps ground our expectations for budgeting. The compiled advice says visitors to Iceland should expect to spend, on average, between $90 and $290 a day per person.
That is a massive $200 spread. How do you even justify that variance?
It all comes down to your logistics and preferences. That $90 end of the scale, that's super efficient budget travel.
So camping, cooking your own food.
Exactly. Camping, cooking from grocery stores,
Yeah.
maybe relying on public transport. The $290 end involves boutique hotels, dining out a lot, organized tours, maybe the high-end geothermal spas.
That range gives you a real, tangible financial boundary to plan within.
It does.
And speaking of getting help, the source material also touched on using travel advisors. It specifically mentioned partnerships, like with IntelliTravel, who can bundle everything together. That sounds convenient, but is there a benefit beyond just saving you some organizational hassle?
Oh, absolutely. The deeper insight here is that it's not just about convenience, it's about access. The critical detail is that these industry partnerships often come with exclusive discounts, bonus amenities, even VIP experiences that you just can't get if you book everything on your own.
What kind of perks are we talking about?
It's often things like a complimentary airport transfer, a guaranteed room upgrade, maybe a guaranteed late checkout, things that just make the trip smoother.
Those small things can add up on a long trip.
They really compound into significant time and money savings.
Okay, so we've grounded ourselves in costs and logistics. Let's talk about the single factor the sources stress as the most critical for managing all of this. Timing. This is that aha moment that I think everyone planning a trip really needs to hear. We're talking about these surprisingly precise booking windows.
This is absolutely where the deep dive pays off. These are the details you'd never find just by skimming a dozen blogs. If you book too late, you either miss out completely or you end up paying double.
Let's start with peak season. So that's generally June through August.
Okay.
The demand is just massive, and you have to accept that the planning for that starts almost a year out.
Nearly a year. How precise are we talking for those summer months?
The advice is clear. For peak season flights, you need to book 5 to 7 months ahead. But for accommodations, the time frame is even more demanding.
How much more?
8 to 12 months in advance.
Wow.
Think about that. If you want that perfect little Airbnb in Tuscany for next July, you probably needed to book it last September.
You're booking your summer vacation while you're still wearing your winter coat.
Pretty much, yeah. That stress is palpable.
Yeah.
It means the decision to travel has to be made incredibly early.
Way before most people even have their vacation days approved. Okay, what if we aim for the shoulder season? That's got to be less intense. It is less intense, but the timelines are still really important. The sources define the shoulder season, so spring and fall, by not just lower prices, but by a better experience.
Fewer crowds.
Way fewer crowds, but still great weather. For flights, then, you're looking at maybe 3 to 4 months ahead. For lodging, 4 to 6 months. Still a long lead time, but much more manageable.
And beyond flights and hotels, the research also gave us specific ticket windows for things like trains and attractions, and they vary wildly.
They really do, and this is where you need to be tactical. Train tickets generally open about 3 months ahead of travel, though it can vary by country. But then you have these world-famous attractions with really short, specific windows. The research notes that Vatican tickets, for example, open 60 days ahead.
And the Colosseum.
The Colosseum, which is notoriously difficult to get, opens tickets only 30 days in advance.
Only a month. Why such a short window? Why not just let people book 6 months out?
The consensus seems to be that it's a deliberate strategy to combat scalping, to fight the bots and the high-volume resellers.
That makes sense.
By keeping the windows short and tight, the venues have better control over who's actually buying the tickets. You have to be ready to strike the moment that window opens.
So you've got these long lead times for lodging and these short, intense windows for attractions. Did the material offer any final booking hacks to get the best value?
2 really good tips stood out. First, if you're just looking for the absolute best flight deal, regardless of the season, the research suggests booking in September often gets you the lowest prices.
Interesting.
And second, if you're planning a winter trip, specifically for those charming German or Austrian Christmas markets.
A very specific trip.
Very specific and very popular. You need to have that whole itinerary booked by July of that year. Those niche trips have huge capacity problems.
That is great advice. Okay, so having nailed down the logistics and timing, let's shift back to inspiration for a minute. I want to pull from some of the diverse article titles that were referenced in our sources. It shows that planning can start from a totally different place.
Right, not just from a geographical profile. Yeah, one clear theme was integrating travel with pop culture. We saw mentions of, cinematic travel.
Like visiting filming locations.
Exactly. Guides on 20 famous filming locations.
Yeah.
Or planning a trip solely around a franchise like a Game of Thrones getaway.
That's a fundamentally different way to plan. You're not starting with, I want to go to Italy. You're starting with, I love that movie. Where can I see those places?
The destination follows the inspiration. It's a great approach.
What other niche ideas did the advice offer?
Well, there were guides for highly specialized cultural trips, like how to do Oktoberfest in Germany, which implies, very specific advice on booking beer tents, finding a place to stay, things you need for a massive event.
Right.
And also romance-focused ideas like your guide to the perfect honeymoon in Scotland, and really practical seasonal advice like the 12 best winter getaway destinations.
The key takeaway here for you, the listener, is that your planning doesn't have to be generic at all. If you know you want a specific experience, a cultural festival, a romantic road trip, there is specific, ready-made advice out there for you.
It connects your passion directly to the itinerary, which makes the whole research phase much more targeted.
And more fun.
Exactly. It lets the process start with joy, not just with spreadsheets and logistics.
Absolutely. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just quickly summarize the 2 most vital pieces of knowledge we've gained here. First, for rapid destination matching, use those 6 traveler profiles: first-timer, adventure, beach, food, budget, and history. It will narrow your focus immediately.
And second, and this is critical, remember those strict lead times. That 8 to 12-month booking window for peak season lodging is the key takeaway here.
Along with those tight 30 to 60-day windows for high-demand attractions like the Colosseum and the Vatican.
You have to be ready for both the marathon and the sprint.
That's a great way to put it. This information really changes how you have to approach an entire travel year. Now, for the final provocative thought we always leave you with, building on these precise booking windows.
Right. So since we know planning accommodations for peak summer travel needs to start almost a year out, and we know high-demand spots like the Vatican are managed with these strict, short windows to prevent scalping. Consider this. What highly popular but extremely limited capacity European cultural experience, maybe a specific annual festival or a table at a world-famous restaurant, might require even more preparation time than 12 months to secure a spot?
Something beyond the usual landmarks.
Exactly. What's that next level of planning?
Something to mull over as you start drafting your calendar.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into smart European travel.
We'll see you next time.
That's it for today's MeetSean. If this helped, follow the show and share this episode with one person who needs it. See you next time.